Well, hello, friends. Welcome to the SerenityOS update for September 2023. I am currently in the middle of moving to a new city with my wife. Everything here is in boxes, and we are on our way out very soon. So I've been a little bit detached from the project in the past couple of weeks and haven't been working on it as much as I like to do. But that's all going to change in a couple of days when we'll be set up in the new location and things will go back to normal, which will be great. Anyway, today, since I am detached, I'm just going to ask for help with the video. So I've asked Andrew and Jelle to come here and present what's new in September. So let's go and visit those guys.
Well, hello friends. Today I'd like to show you a couple of things that have happened in the month of September for the SerenityOS project. And I'd like to kick off with the Maps application. Maps is a new application built by Bastiaan. And Bastiaan has built this map widget and an application to use this map widget with which you can just navigate the Earth. You might recognize this. It's the OpenStreetMap tiles that we're currently looking at. And you can pan the map, you can zoom in, you can zoom out. And as you can see, I have an overlay enabled, which is the SerenityOS users overlay, which shows you the location of some of the SerenityOS users that have provided their location in the user map. We also have this as a website, but it's really neat that we can pull in this data and show this in the Maps application inside SerenityOS. Bastiaan also built a search feature in which you can use search queries and navigate quickly to those locations. So a very nice feature indeed. Thank you, Bastiaan. And let's take a look at some other things. Then I'd like to show you some contributions by Tim Ledbetter in the past month. To start off with the game of life, which isn't really a game, it's more of a simulation. And this simulation is pretty neat. What Tim did was introduce a tick count in the lower right of this window, which is, I guess, an improvement, maybe if you're interested in that kind of statistic of the simulation. But I think a cooler feature is the fact that when you insert a pattern, so let's insert a middleweight spaceship here, you are now able to insert more of them by holding Control while clicking, which is really neat. And I guess if you're using the game of life for productivity, this will boost your productivity enormously. So nice little feature there, Tim. Thank you. Tim has also worked on a number of utilities this month. And let's start off with ls. ls has learned the -p parameter, which shows this slash at the end of directory entries, which is really nice to have. And ls also learned about capital S, which sorts items based on size, which is really neat. Furthermore, he worked on less. Less is this pager utility that can page through files like this. And what Tim did was he taught it the -N parameter, which makes sure to show the line number for each line displayed. So very nice to have. Additionally, if you view a file with less that is shorter than your terminal height, it will keep you in this interactive state. But when you pass the new -F parameter, it will immediately quit if it's able to show you the entirety of the file on screen. So very nice features there for less and ls. Find is also improved. For example, if you type find, all the items that are shown here are now clickable. So I can double click on them to open them, which is really nice. This is usually something that you'd like to do with the result of find, so I've found myself using this already in a number of situations. But find is a very powerful tool, and as many powerful tools have, it has a lot of parameters. So this month, Tim has made sure that find understands dash UID, which tries to find files based on a user ID of the owner. The same for GID to find files with a group. And as you can see, there are no root-owned files in my home folder. So this is working pretty nicely. Additionally, find learned about min depth and max depth. Min depth, of course, minimizing the amount of directories that an item should be in, and max depth doing the opposite. It's setting a maximum. Very nice. It also learned about dash size. Well, we already had dash size, but we now have the ability to filter on a minimum or a maximum size. So it used to be possible to this, for example, to find files of size 11 megabytes. And we can now also use plus 11 megabytes to find all files that are at least 11 megabytes. The same goes for links. You could have an exact match, or you could say, I'd like all items with at least 4 links. Very nice. It's also possible to apply negation. So by using the exclamation mark, I can find all files that are not owned by root, which works. And we can find empty files by passing dash empty. Finally, find has learned dash newer to find files that are newer than a certain other file, or were read more recently, or were changed more recently. So very, very nice improvements in our utilities. Thank you, Tim. That was it for me for this month. Over to you, Andrew.
Well, hello friends. This month, a lot of things happened all throughout the project, as usual. A lot of them are pretty hard to demo, so I'll do my best to cover the things that Jelle hasn't yet or won't in his segment. The first one is something that I believe Andreas mentioned in the Ladybird update this month, was that there is now a Haiku port for the Ladybird browser. So that's work done by Nipos to add a bunch of support to ACK and libcore for the most part, and the build system a little bit, to be able to build Ladybird for Haiku using the Qt GUI for that. I believe by extension that means that you can build Serenity with Haiku as a host, though I'm not sure anyone's done that. On the theme of ports of Ladybird, Sergey added a GNU/herd i386 port for a bunch of the core libraries. I believe he got as far as running the JS REPL on his GNU herd box. I'm not sure if he got as far as actually booting the browser, but pretty interesting to see. That required a bunch of 32-bit fixes, since we've, for the most part, pretended that 32-bit platforms don't exist for the rest of the project. So Sergey was happy to add some patches for that, and they didn't seem pretty bad, too intrusive, so we went ahead and added those. Let's see, next thing on the block is a bunch of work from Cubic Love. So they added a bunch of a bunch of man pages for some of our applications, and they created a new tracking issue if you want to work on some documentation here. So I believe they added them for, I should have just searched for these. Yeah. So for a couple of the games, the first one is Snake. So now there's a slightly more detailed description of what Snake does, and the fact that you can customize the Snake skin using the themes, and I believe we have named Snake now. Also on the block was Flappy Bug, which now has a little bit more description than it did before. They also added a description for the package utility that Liav added, I believe it was last month, which interacts with the, I believe at the moment it parses the available ports MD file in the ports directory, and it's designed to interact with the ports database. I don't have any ports on this install, so I don't think it quite works right. But this is in the works, and I believe there's plans, for lack of a better word, to implement a GUI on top of the core functionality that this command line tool has. So exciting stuff in the works. Let's see. Next, there's been a bunch of progress on our conversion from string to deprecated string by a bunch of people. The work that I noticed this month was done by Comp for a couple of the applications in user space. We do have that ongoing migration from our null terminated immutable ref counted string to our not null terminated immutable ref counted UTF-8 string class. That work is still ongoing, and as we've been making all these ports for other platforms for the Ladybird browser, we probably are going to need a null terminated string back, just with a name that's not implicitly deprecated. Some other work that's been going on this month that's hard to demo is that Dan has been working on his JS spec compiler. I think that's come up in a couple of videos before. Bunch of patches for that came in. Not sure if it does anything that I can show yet, but the intention of that is to parse the ECMAScript spec and produce some sort of code from that. And I've been promised that maybe not this pull request that's currently open, but the next one will have some tests so we can see what it does. Okay, so there's been a bunch of work in the kernel by Liav and Leon. They took some work from way back in the day, I think it must be at least 2 years old at this point, from Jesse on USB support, moving that along. Liav got the mass storage implementation to a place where we were happy to merge that in, or I was at least. And there is more work in the pipe for that on human interface devices, so both mouse and keyboard that Liav has. So hopefully sometime mid this next month we'll have a working USB mouse support. Liav did post on his Mastodon account that he had, or not Liav, Leon posted on Mastodon that they had booted from a USB stick successfully in QEMU. So I think there's a tiny patch in the queue today to make that in tree, so we can all try out booting from USB. From what I saw, it seemed to be pretty slow, so there should be some interesting performance work upcoming on that USB mass storage driver. On the topic of kernel features, let's see, I wonder if I can see it here. Hello. Yes, so there is a new system service called the device mapper that Liav added. I wonder if he added a man page for it. Maybe not. And 7. Nope. All right. Doesn't exist in section. Yeah, I gave you section 7, guy. All right. Some bugs in man that someone could go fix. But this device mapper reads a new device file. I'm not sure if it's here or in. Yes, devctl. And this, whenever the kernel adds a new device, it will make the information of that available on this special device file, which allows for things like, well, the PR talked about how it was a hot plug daemon. So the point of this is to enable hot plug of, in particular, USB devices, so that if you plug and unplug a USB stick or something, it should populate the device properly and do that with a user space service rather than having the kernel manage these files itself. So exciting to see, and hopefully we can make more use of that as we add more and more devices to the kernel. All right, back on the topic of things that are hard to show, we have 2 new algorithms that were added to libcrypto this month. One of them by Stellar7, which is the Cha-Cha Poly 1305 algorithm, and another one by Implicit Field, which is Blake 2B. So there's still, I think I revived a PR for adding ECDHE, ECDSA support to the TLS implementation. So we won't quite be able to use these in the browser yet, but it is good to see more standard algorithms in libcrypto itself for non-TLS implementations. I'm sure there's a way to hook up all of these new ones into TLS in the future. All right. I saw that Kleines added a bunch of improvements to libaudio, and he mentioned in the PR that they were most all of them found by fuzzers, and so probably a good time to remind everyone that we do have continuous fuzzing through OSS Fuzz, which is a project that Google has set up. So if you click the badge on the README on our GitHub, you can see all the open fuzzer bugs. I believe they are increasing in number over time because we don't have many people going in and looking at those bugs. So if you're looking for a simple, reproducible bug to get started on SerenityOS, no better place than the fuzzers. So shout outs to OSS Fuzz there. Back on the kernel train, there is a bunch of work on RISC-V that's, I believe it's still not quite ready for upstreaming by Sonke and Kleines, but I'm hoping that we can clear the backlog of the PR queue and get more of those fixes in, because I believe that Sonke, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, it is German, they have a Sci5 board that they've been hacking on, so hopefully we can get that up to par with RISC-V or with ARM64 and use the energy there to help make our ARM64 port better. I think the main thing there is this USB support that Liav and Leon are working on, and we need some more device tree support. So good progress there. All right, let's get to some things that I can actually demo. So the first one is that I'm going to play a video here that has a whole bunch of audio, so hold on to your hats. And of course, it's the wrong size. Come on. There we go. All right, so I mentioned last month that we had added the AppKit port for Ladybird. This runs using the native macOS libraries. This is mostly done by Tim. So this month, for that, gosh, I didn't remember who all added, but probably had 4 or 5 contributors add tweaks and fixes to that AppKit port. I know Tim added a couple more features like the JS console and such, but one that I really wanted to highlight here was that we now have audio support in the AppKit port. So if we go back here, I've got 2 windows open. One of them is Ladybird and the other one is Safari, just open to the same page. And we can see that when I play this classical music here from this random website I found that has classical music on it, sounds pretty good. Don't hear any stuttering. Just sounds like we're doing everything right. The UI looks a little bit jank, but I'm sure there's some layout fixes we can do to make that better. But if we play that same song in Safari, hopefully you can hear it, but the audio sounds the same. So we're doing just as good as Safari does as far as audio on macOS, which I think is awesome. All right. Speaking of Ladybird ports, Sergey mentioned that I think he mentioned that a couple days ago, but the GTK port that he has in his own repo is just about ready to upstream. So hopefully by this time next month, we will have an in-tree GTK port to share with everyone. I know he's been really excited about it, so I'm looking forward to seeing that in the tree. Okay, so the next thing is that right at the end of the month, Nico decided to come in and drop a whole macOS application on us. So, come on, open with VLC Player. Yes, no, maybe? Yes. All right. Gosh dang it. So, Nico added a PDF viewer for macOS that he wrote using AppKit. So, similar to our AppKit port of Ladybird, we now have an AppKit PDF viewer that you can use on Lagom if you have a Mac. So here I've got it open with 3 different of our test PDFs we use. It's got one that tests Adobe Type 1 fonts, one that tests multi-page. Here we have one that's password protected. It says the password is sup, and it says sup, so that's cute. But yeah, so Nico said that he's been using this application to test libpdf without having to boot Serenity. So it's pretty awesome. The code for it didn't look particularly complicated, so maybe there's a path forward to porting more of our applications to non-Serenity areas. There's definitely a framework for it, at least. So thanks, Nico, for adding this. I'm sure I'll be using this one instead of Preview whenever I get the chance, assuming it doesn't crash. And if it does, I'll report a bug. But yeah. All right. There is some work on the Android port that I did this month for Ladybird, but don't have that ready right now. So if you want to see what that looks like, check my Twitter or Andreas's Twitter. I posted a video there. But long story short, it shows a web view and it's got a URL bar, and that's it. So yeah, hopefully we'll keep improving all these skins for Ladybird. We'll keep improving the usability of our system. We'll get some more USB stuff in once I actually get around to reviewing it. And yeah, I think it's been overall a pretty good month for Serenity. So off to the next presenter.
And that's all the stuff we had to look at today. So thank you so much for stopping by and keeping up to date with SerenityOS. Huge thanks to Andrew and Jelle for presenting this month. Really appreciate that. If you want to come chat with us, you'll find us all in the Discord server for SerenityOS. There's a link to that in the video description. If you would like to sponsor development, you'll find links to that as well. All right, that's it for today. Next month, we will do a bit better. See you then. Bye.